So, without introduction, I welcome you to this particular edition of Beth Series Biologists Explain This. From any part of the world you are listening to me from, I still remain your biologist, your friend, Peter Sabiodun. Thank you for joining us on this particular edition. Now, we are going to be discussing issues surrounding bleaching. Now, you heard me right. Bleaching, it's becoming a menace, it's becoming so common, and unfortunately, the gullible individuals don't know how far the damages can be. And so, like we have always said, our duty at the Best Series is to ensure that we are enlightened and adequately informed so that we can live a much better life. There are so many ways we harm ourselves by taking wrong decisions or very ill-informed decisions. Sometimes or oftentimes we don't have the total picture, so we are hasty in our decisions, and so we do things without a recourse to the end of our actions. And like they always say, today was the tomorrow you prayed about yesterday. There will always be a tomorrow. So once again, I welcome you to this very special edition of Beth Series Biologists Explain This. And then it's always been said that black is beautiful and things like that, but now the slogan is changing to if it ain't white, it ain't right at all. And they begin to see the issue that skin bleaching is becoming very common, and we are going to put our searchlight on this. What are the scenarios? What are the pushes? What are the drives? What are the compelling forces or reasons pushing our ladies, our women into this menace, this problem of having to whiten their skin? And so we define skin bleaching as a process of lightening the skin tone. Okay, usually you've got to use chemical agents to accomplish that, and so there's a negative side to skin lightening that we're going to be looking at. So it's a process of changing the skin color to become whiter. And then it's always been said that black is beautiful and things like that, but now the slogan. And then whiteness has always, and now we see whiteness or lightening having become elevated the world over now. And you begin to see this slogan that it's all about being white. So it's not about even the skin color anymore. It's about trying to covet everything that has to do with being white. So you see everything black being regarded as derogatory. So you see things like a blacklist, Black Maria, and things like that. And so whatever is white is deemed to be perfect and better and things like that. So it's not just about the skin color, it's about everything that has to do with whiteness is preferred now. And you begin to see people who are white-skinned, light-skinned, so to say, being accorded privileges and economic and social status over and above those who are dark-skinned. Okay, so women the world over now are feeling pressured to have to conform. There are some fields of human endeavor now that if you you begin to see the worrisome trend that even African women now are trying to even whiten their babies from the skin. Now we have a conspiracy here where a lot of celebrities, you will see them along the line, see many celebrities who are being used now to push the narrative of bleaching. They are very prominent. And so you see them in the acting industry, the show business industry, the marketing, and all kind of, I mean, they are prominent all over the places, and they are influencing youths. Okay, they are public figures. You call them OAPs, online personalities. And so it's becoming, even in the wrong way. Okay, the fashion industry, to be light is becoming a prominent thing. So if you have any darkening skin color, you don't probably stand a chance as a model. Of course, there are a few black models who have distinguished themselves, but majority are light skinned. And so commercials on the TV, on the internet. So we come to the question, why the craze for becoming whitened? Now, like I said earlier on, majority of women want to be light skinned for a reason. So it's like an upgrade of who you are. And this issue is that it's a, how do I put it now? Okay, now it's alleged that many men like light skinned people. Okay, so it's like when you're light skinned, you stand a better chance to get some kind of jobs to seduce more men. So you see the backing hall, you in the recreational centers, you see in some places where men patronize, you see many ladies being brought in light skin. If you're going to be employed, even in some grocery stores, okay, wine joints and spa and the rest of them, to attract men, you've got to be light skinned. So it's a problem. And so where the money is where the whitening, where the lightening. So we come to the question, why the craze for becoming whitened? Now, like I said earlier on, majority of women want to be light skinned for a reason. So it's like an upgrade of who you are. And this issue is that it's a, how do I put it now? Okay, now it's alleged that many men like light skinned people. Okay, so it's like when you're light skinned, you stand a better chance to get some kind of jobs to seduce more men. So you see the backing hall, you in the recreational centers, you see in some places where men patronize, you see many ladies being brought in light skin. If you're going to be employed, even in some grocery stores, okay, wine joints and spa and the rest of them, to attract men, you've got to be light skinned. So it's a problem. And so where the money is where the whitening, where the lightening. And so with so much money available in the industry, of course, if we take the world's population, women are much more. There are many. You have more women than you have men. I'm sure if the ratio is not 5 to 1, I'll be very surprised that for every 5 ladies or women, there's only one man, so to say. So there is this rat race to be acceptable, to be showy, to be prominent, to be acceptable, to be seen. And we come to this issue of these terms being used to fool the public now by companies that manufacture these chemicals, okay, these creams, these whatever they call them. And these words are toning, brightening, lightening, whitening, and then bleaching, which is the more common one, the most common one. And all these other words, in true, if you want to say truly, they are synonyms of bleaching. Now we begin to see the narratives from companies that brightening and lightening, they are just trying to bring the glow. And then the issue is that all skin whitening creams, all skin lightening procedures, they target cells in the skin called melanocytes. These are cells that produce the pigment called melanin. And so with more melanocytes, there will be more melanin production, and then the skin becomes darkened in color. Now, the amount of melanin, or the extent of melanin production in anybody's skin, is genetically coded for, is determined. And so Negroes have genes that produce a lot of melanin. That's why we are dark skin. And you see, in genetics, or let's say in evolutionary situations, there's an adaptation of every individual to its environment. There's something called selection pressure. Now, the idea of nature is to protect Negroes from the damaging effect of the ultra. There's something that came up when I was researching for this particular topic, and I came across the word colorism. Now, I had to dig deep because I was familiar with racism, colorism. What the hell was that? And I found it very intriguing. And so I want to educate us here. I'm sure many of us are familiar with racism. I mean, South Africa epitomized that years ago. Of course, it is too subtle in the US and the UK and other parts of the world where blacks and other nationalities are discriminated against, okay? But we see colorism as discrimination based on skin color. So even within individuals of the same race, you have colorism. Colorism is just discrimination based on skin. I mean, some scientists have called it hierarchical discrimination. So even you see blacks discriminate against blacks, so you have different shades of blackness, so to say. So, but when you come to, so still on racism and colorism, now racism is prejudice against people of a certain racial and ethnic grouping or affiliation or origin or background, and colorism simply affects the degree to which you are discriminated against based on the degree of lightness, of lightening or whitening of your skin. And I want us to please Google that video, click on that video by ABC. ABC did a video on colorism where certain persons were interviewed to get their feedbacks on their experiences as regards colorism, because that particular video by ABC was to bring to fore to the public notice the existence of colorism, because racism seems to be the only thing people are aware of, and colorism is so common, but it's subtle because it's overshadowed by colorism. So I'm sorry, racism overshadows colorism. So colorism is shrouded in secrecy. And like this lecturer, David Ademolo, talked about, he defined colorism as intra. So you can have inter means between, intra means within. So you got intra-racial complexion-based hierarchy that often affords societal, cultural, economic privileges and favoritism towards lighter-skinned persons. And then you got discrimination against those with darker complexion. So it's an hierarchical discrimination. Now, it's done in different ways, but I bring to you three different ways of colorism. One is known as the one-drop rule. One-drop rule simply means that it dates back to the 17th century, so you can see how old it is. It simply means that even though you are in the third, or let's say you are the second or third generation of a particular family, just because you manage to have had anybody in your lineage who was black, you are simply black. Even if you married a white person and your children are And so if you see, if you begin to see some public places where if a black person wants to enter, you prevented from entering. So you call this kind of issue, these places, you've got the blue vein societies where light-skinned people only are allowed to enter. And so because you say you are alleged not to be light enough to see the blue veins in your skin, and so you are discriminated against, and you are not allowed entry such places. That's the issue of the blue vein syndrome. Remember, it's still about colorism, extent of lightning. The people who are discriminating against you are black themselves, but because you are darker, you have a darker tone of skin color than they have, they don't consider you as part of them. And then you got the annoying one, the paperback. Now look at the color of the text colorism and the color of that phrase, that area light enough, like that, brown in color. Now, if your skin color is not like this, you are not regarded as and so we see that there's another one I want to explain now, apart from this, the first two, the paper bag and the blue vein issue and the one dropped issue. Now the first one is the halo effect. Now the halo effect is a very funny one because it presumes that if somebody has a good quality in one area, okay, that quality is now extended to mean that that person has other qualities. It's assumed, it's an assumption. So if a guy met a lady somewhere, for example, and the lady is good looking, like fine and things like that, you begin to conclude that she must be courteous and she must be a good cook and she's a wife material because she looks good. And if a lady met a guy, he's got six packs, has a nice ride, lives in the choice part of society, has a good job and things like that, has a deep voice like you say in the movies, and hi. And so she begins to assume that this is a husband material. It's got to be a good kiss and things like that. So that is the problem of the halo effect. Apply this. And then we come to regrets. Because if stars don't talk about this, they are the ones who are portraying this whitening mess. And so when they talk, we listen because they are helping us and helping the youth particularly. Now, Tokemakiwa is an online personality, social media influencer as she's called. And then on an X handle, she talked about this, that she regretted that one of the dumbest, most stupid things he ever did was to bleach. I'm sure she authored a book called Becoming, where she stated that she had to become light-skinned because she was trying to be like the woman the husband was dating. The husband was dating a light-skinned person. So to compete, just imagine that stupidity, to compete with the other woman, she tried to become light. Of course, the marriage still crashed. The man, she divorced her. Let's say they divorced each other and went their ways. And then she's left with her light skin. So she's saying her life, she looks back now, she finds it very dumb, very stupid to have bleached in the first instance. And then we come to regrets. Because if stars don't talk about this, they are the ones who are portraying this whitening mess. And so when they talk, we listen because they are helping us and helping the youth particularly. Now, Tokemakiwa is an online personality, social media influencer as she's called. And then on an X handle, she talked about this, that she regretted that one of the dumbest, most stupid things he ever did was to bleach. I'm sure she authored a book called Becoming, where she stated that she had to become light-skinned because she was trying to be like the woman the husband was dating. The husband was dating a light-skinned person. So to compete, just imagine that stupidity, to compete with the other woman, she tried to become light. Of course, the marriage still crashed. The man, she divorced her. Let's say they divorced each other and went their ways. And then she's left with her light skin. So she's saying her life, she looks back now, she finds it very dumb, very stupid to have bleached in the first instance. And of course, exogenous talks about it from the outside, okay? From the outside, there's a particular genetic disorder called acaptonuria that can also called endogenous achronosis. That is from the inside. But it's amazing that with all of this information, of course, it's because people don't read, or there's this complicity from the media, because there's so much money that media outfits make from adverts and things like that. So they may just be quiet about all of this. So this part one has introduced the issue of bleaching. We've talked about what it is. So whitening, lightening, toning, and all of those words, they are just gimmick, okay, to fool us. And then we have talked about colorism. We talked about the reason people feel pressured. That's the introduction. So watch out for part 2 of this particular topic on the whitening craze. The part 2 will be talking about a lot of things. It is